Most people mix up attraction with a real connection. Attraction can disappear with time, but when someone feels a deep bond with you, that feeling stays with them in a way they can't easily forget. And here's the surprising part. You don't have to keep wondering if it's real. There are clear signs that quietly reveal it. Once you recognize them, you'll stop questioning where you truly stand. So stay with me, because each sign reveals something even more powerful. The first sign is a natural pull. They feel drawn toward you without fully understanding why, and instead of resisting it, they simply allow themselves to move closer. The second sign is comfort, real comfort. Around you, they don't feel the need to wear a mask or play a role. They can be quiet, emotional, playful, imperfect, or completely honest, and they trust that they're safe. The third sign is an unspoken understanding. A single glance, an unfinished sentence, or a brief silence somehow says everything. You understand each other without needing endless explanations. That isn't chance. It's a deeper kind of connection. And here's another powerful clue. Time behaves differently. Hours together disappear in what feels like minutes, yet even a short time apart feels strangely heavy. But don't click away yet, because what comes next explains why this happens in the first place. If these words already feel familiar, take a moment to support the video with a like. It helps this message reach people who may need it today. And if you enjoy exploring connections like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next insight that could completely change the way you see relationships. Some meetings are ordinary, and then there are those rare moments that seem to touch something much deeper. Sometimes another person doesn't simply become part of your life. They awaken something that has been quietly waiting inside you all along. Logic struggles to explain it. Surface-level checklists can't measure it. It goes beyond attraction, beyond shared interests, and even beyond simple compatibility. It feels more like recognition. Something about them seems familiar, even though you've never shared this path before. It's like finding a place that somehow feels like home the first time you arrive. That's what a deep soul connection feels like. And when it appears, you don't recognize it only through emotion. You notice it through the changes it creates inside your life. This kind of bond refuses to stay hidden. It reveals itself through repeated moments, powerful emotions, and a quiet transformation happening inside your heart. Little by little, you begin to understand this isn't just another relationship passing through your story. This is someone who seems connected to a much deeper part of your journey. And if they feel that same pull toward you, the signs begin appearing in their actions as well. Sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they're impossible to ignore, but they're always meaningful. Keep watching, because one of the biggest signs often goes unnoticed until it's almost impossible to deny. There is something fascinating about human connection that continues to puzzle people, no matter how much they try to understand it. Some experiences simply refuse to fit into simple explanations. When two people meet and an invisible link forms between them, it isn't only chemistry or physical attraction. It's as though two different lives suddenly begin moving on the same rhythm. No dramatic speeches are required, no perfect timing is necessary. The connection grows quietly. It exists in peaceful moments, shared silence, and the space between spoken words. When someone feels this deeper bond with you, that emotional harmony becomes impossible to ignore. Think about conversations where you constantly had to explain yourself, defend your feelings, or repeat what was already clear to you. Then compare that with those rare moments where almost nothing needs to be said because understanding comes naturally. A quick glance across the room says enough. A simple pause carries more meaning than an entire conversation. That's what makes this kind of connection different. You feel truly seen without raising your voice. You're not trying to create a perfect image. You're simply being yourself, and they're responding to the real person standing in front of them. Moments like these are uncommon, and that's exactly why they leave such a lasting impression. But this is only the beginning, because the next sign reaches even deeper than words ever could. Most relationships are built around things people can easily see: appearance, success, shared routines, similar lifestyles. On paper, everything may seem perfect, but a true soul connection pays little attention to those outside details. Instead, it reaches into the deepest parts of who you really are. You'll notice it when someone begins responding not only to what you say, but to what you silently feel. They recognize changes in your voice before anyone else notices. They sense when your energy becomes quieter, even if your expression hasn't changed at all. Somehow, they know when something is wrong without you needing to explain it. That level of awareness isn't just careful observation. It's a sign that something deeper is happening between the two of you. And here's what makes it even more remarkable. You can't force this kind of bond into existence. Planning every step or trying to control every moment only pushes it further away. It usually arrives unexpectedly. Maybe during an ordinary conversation, maybe while laughing together over something simple, maybe while sitting quietly without saying much at all. There's no performance, no pretending, no pressure to impress. You're simply yourself, and they are simply themselves. Yet somehow those honest moments feel richer than anything carefully planned. That's emotional harmony. Two people naturally moving together without forcing the rhythm. And here's something many people misunderstand. This connection doesn't always begin with romance. Sometimes it first appears as deep care, respect, or effortless understanding. That's why the strongest connections often surprise us. They grow where truth is allowed to exist, not where appearances try to control the story. You're giving each other something much deeper than attention. You're creating a shared experience that feels timeless while also feeling completely alive in the present moment. That combination is incredibly rare. Most relationships operate like quiet exchanges where people keep track of what they give and what they receive. Feelings become a trade. Attention becomes a reward. Affection becomes something to earn. But when the connection is truly deep, time stops feeling like something to spend or manage. It becomes pure presence. And you'll notice this even more clearly when you're apart. In many relationships, distance creates uncertainty. People begin questioning everything. They need constant messages, reassurance, and reminders that nothing has changed. A true soul connection works differently. The bond doesn't disappear because you're separated. It simply becomes quieter, like a steady flame glowing beneath the surface instead of burning brightly. They remain with you in a peaceful way, not as a heavy weight on your heart, but as a calm presence that gives you strength. Even after days without talking, you don't automatically feel forgotten. Even when life becomes busy, you don't immediately assume you've been replaced. Deep inside, there's a quiet certainty that what you share isn't fragile. It's built on something stronger than physical closeness. Stay with me, because this next part explains why that feeling becomes so powerful over time. This kind of connection isn't about dependence, and it isn't about losing yourself inside another person. It's built on trust. Not only trust in them, but trust in the connection itself. You begin trusting the rhythm even when life changes its pace. A slower reply doesn't create panic. A postponed plan doesn't make you question your value. That's because you're no longer reacting from fear. You're responding from peace. That confidence grows after enough shared moments have quietly proven the strength of what you have together. Every conversation, every challenge, every period of silence shows that the connection can survive uncertainty without falling apart. When someone truly feels this bond with you, they don't need endless reminders to stay emotionally close. Life may become overwhelming. Work, responsibilities, family, or personal struggles may demand their attention. Yet somewhere inside, you remain present in their thoughts. Not as another task to complete, but as someone meaningful they naturally return to in quiet moments. You'll notice something similar inside yourself. You won't need constant contact to remember how important they are. Their value won't disappear just because they're not standing beside you. Instead, the connection quietly becomes a source of inner strength. It reminds you of your own depth, your own worth, and your ability to love without fear. That's the difference. A shallow attachment leaves you feeling empty without someone. A deeper connection helps you feel even more complete within yourself. Even when you're apart, small things begin carrying unexpected meaning. Certain songs suddenly feel different. Ordinary places remind you of conversations you thought you had forgotten. Sometimes you find yourself thinking about them moments before they reach out. Other times you sense that something is happening in their world without any obvious reason. It can almost feel like silent communication, but it doesn't have to be mysterious to be meaningful. When two people understand each other deeply, emotional awareness naturally grows stronger. You begin noticing subtle changes before they're spoken aloud. You sense their happiness before they share the news. You feel their sadness before they explain what's wrong. Their victories make you smile even if you weren't there to witness them. Their struggles affect your heart because the connection reaches beyond physical distance. But don't mistake this for effortless perfection. Even the deepest relationships still exist in the real world. There will still be responsibilities, disagreements, busy schedules, misunderstandings, and unexpected challenges. The difference is that those obstacles don't destroy the foundation. Instead of feeling like strangers after time apart, you reconnect naturally, almost as if the conversation simply paused instead of ending. That's one of the strongest signs that the bond has real depth. It doesn't require starting over every time life gets busy. It quietly waits, then continues where it left off. As time passes, this kind of connection teaches a different kind of patience. Not patience filled with frustration or silent suffering, but patience built on confidence. You stop chasing quick answers. You stop demanding immediate certainty. Instead, you allow the relationship to unfold at its own pace. Space no longer feels like danger. It becomes an opportunity for both people to grow, reflect, and return even stronger. So if you found yourself in a relationship where time feels strangely different, where distance doesn't erase the closeness, don't dismiss it too quickly. Don't overanalyze every small moment until the beauty disappears. Simply pay attention. Ask yourself a few honest questions. Do you feel pressured or do you feel peaceful? Do you leave their presence emotionally exhausted or do you feel stronger than before? Do you remember the number of hours you spent together or do you remember how deeply those moments touched your life? Those answers reveal far more than endless guessing ever could. Because when someone truly shares a soul connection with you, time stops acting like an obstacle. Instead, it quietly supports a bond that refuses to fade with passing days. But here's where many people become surprised. Deep connections aren't always soft and easy. They often become the beginning of your greatest personal transformation. Many people imagine a soul connection as something gentle, effortless, and endlessly peaceful. The reality is much more powerful. When someone truly shares this kind of bond with you, they don't only bring comfort, they also awaken parts of you that have been asleep for years. Old fears rise to the surface. Hidden insecurities begin asking for attention. The desire to be fully understood grows stronger, while at the same time so does the fear of being rejected once you're truly seen. That's why these connections often feel so intense. They aren't simply about meeting another person. They're also about meeting yourself. You may wonder why your emotions become so strong so quickly, why one person seems able to reach places inside you that no one else ever touched. That's a completely natural response. Their presence becomes like a mirror reflecting truths you've quietly avoided for a long time. The remarkable part is that they're usually not trying to change you at all. They're simply living honestly, and that honesty naturally encourages you to face your own life with greater openness. Sometimes that feels freeing, other times it feels deeply uncomfortable. You may notice old emotional wounds beginning to surface, not because they're causing new pain, but because their presence gently shines light on places that still need healing. And surprisingly, that's often one of the clearest signs that the connection is changing both of you from the inside out. You may find yourself reacting in ways you never expected. Maybe you become defensive without knowing why. Maybe you suddenly pull away. Maybe fear appears out of nowhere, even when everything seems fine. That fear doesn't automatically mean the connection is wrong. Sometimes it means the connection has reached parts of you that have been hidden for a long time. And right there, you face an important choice. You can retreat into what feels familiar, or you can move toward growth, even if it feels uncomfortable. If the other person shares this same deep connection with you, they won't punish you for feeling afraid. They won't use your vulnerable moments against you, and they won't expect perfection. Instead, they stay present. They may encourage you to grow, but never through cruelty or control. They gently invite you to become more honest, more open, and more yourself than you've ever allowed before. Growth rarely feels easy, but it often feels right. That's because this kind of bond isn't here to protect your pride. It's here to help you become stronger from the inside out. Before you know it, you may hear yourself saying, "I've never shared this with anyone before." Not because you planned to, but because something inside you quietly decided it was finally safe. Stay with me, because what happens after that moment reveals whether the connection is truly real. Once you've shared your deepest truth, whether it's an old fear, a painful memory, or a hidden doubt, the hardest part is already behind you. Then comes the moment that matters most. Do they stay? Do they pull away? Or do they receive your truth with patience, knowing how much courage it took for you to reveal it? That's where the real depth of the connection becomes visible. When someone truly feels this bond with you, they don't run from your uncomfortable emotions. They don't rush to fix everything either. Instead, they stay beside you. They respect your strength enough not to treat you like someone who needs saving, but they also refuse to leave you carrying your struggles alone. They become a steady presence while you continue growing, and in time, you naturally become that same steady presence for them. This shared willingness to witness each other's journey creates a level of closeness that simply can't be pretended. It isn't built on perfect moments. It's built on honesty, and honesty has a way of creating trust that grows stronger every single time life becomes difficult. That's why these connections often feel different from anything you've experienced before. They don't demand perfection. They ask for authenticity, and that changes everything. Of course, this doesn't mean everything becomes effortless. A deep soul connection doesn't guarantee that you'll agree on every decision, share every habit, or always express emotions in the same way. Sometimes the distance between who you've been and who you're becoming creates tension. But not all tension is harmful. Some of it serves a purpose. It slowly wears away old defenses until the real version of you has room to emerge. That's one of the greatest purposes of a connection like this. It breaks down what no longer serves you while protecting what is genuine underneath. Many people walk away from this kind of relationship because the emotions become overwhelming. They mistake healthy discomfort for something unhealthy. But there's an important difference. Harmful relationships leave you feeling controlled, confused, and trapped in repeating cycles. A true soul connection invites honesty, encourages healing, and gently challenges you to become better. You'll know the difference because the challenge isn't asking you to become smaller, it's inviting you to become more fully yourself. Conversations begin reaching beyond small talk. They ask questions that stay in your mind long after the discussion ends. They gently challenge the stories you've believed about yourself, not to hurt you, but to help you wake up to possibilities you hadn't yet considered. And that's where real transformation quietly begins. As time passes, something remarkable starts happening. You realize the tension, the difficult conversations, and even the uncomfortable moments were never signs that something was wrong. They were invitations to grow into someone stronger, not only as a partner, but as a person. And if the other person truly shares this deep bond with you, you'll notice growth happening inside them as well. They become more thoughtful, more self-aware, and more willing to look honestly at themselves. This kind of connection doesn't survive behind masks or carefully crafted images. It asks both people to tell the truth, even when that truth feels messy. It asks them to stay present, even when walking away would seem easier. Most importantly, it asks for responsibility. clarity, not harsh criticism or impossible expectations, but the quiet belief that says, I see who you are today, and I also see who you're capable of becoming. That's incredibly rare. And when you experience it, it doesn't simply improve your relationship, it changes the direction of your life. So if you find yourself feeling challenged inside a connection like this, don't rush to escape. Pause for a moment, look deeper, ask yourself one honest question. Are you afraid of being hurt, or are you afraid of being completely seen? Those are two very different fears. One warns you about danger, the other invites healing. Don't miss this next part, because one final sign often reveals everything. When someone truly feels this deep connection with you, it doesn't stay hidden inside words alone. It begins showing through consistent actions, not dramatic promises, not endless speeches, simply steady presence. Their behavior quietly communicates what their heart already knows. Even if you've never talked about the future or given the relationship a name, their actions begin telling the story for them. In a world filled with uncertain connections, consistency becomes one of the strongest signs of all. Many people appear only when everything feels easy, then disappear the moment life becomes complicated. They offer just enough attention to keep hope alive without ever providing real security. But someone who shares a genuine soul connection behaves differently. They don't remain at the edge of your life. They step fully into it with intention, care, and consistency. Their energy doesn't constantly change from warm to cold. They don't create confusion just to keep your attention. Their reliability becomes louder than any promise they could make. That doesn't mean they're perfect. They're still human. They still make mistakes, feel fear, and sometimes fall short. But even after misunderstandings, they come back. Even after conflict, they seek healing instead of distance. Even during uncertainty, they choose honest conversations over silent guessing. And little by little, you begin recognizing something truly rare, someone who accepts emotional responsibility because the connection matters more than protecting their pride. The kind of connection that quietly says, I know what we share isn't ordinary and I'm not going to treat it like it is. That kind of awareness is rare, but when it appears, it speaks louder than any grand declaration ever could. You usually notice it first through the smallest moments, the way they truly listen instead of simply waiting for their turn to speak, the way they remember little details that most people would forget, not to impress you, but because those details genuinely matter to them. The way they show up when life becomes difficult, even before you ask for help. None of it is about being perfect. It's about being present. Real presence never needs to demand attention because it naturally gives attention with care. A deep connection doesn't always rely on beautiful words. It reveals itself through quiet consistency. Even when life feels overwhelming, even when emotions become difficult to explain, someone who feels this bond naturally makes room for you. Not because they feel forced, not because they're afraid of losing you. They simply know, deep inside, where they feel most connected. Without even realizing it, they begin shaping their life in ways that include you. You never feel like an afterthought squeezed into whatever time remains. Instead, you feel like someone they intentionally choose to make space for. Stay with me, because this next sign is often the clearest one of all. As that connection grows, something inside you begins changing too. The constant need to chase disappears. You stop feeling like you have to prove your value or explain why you deserve to matter. You no longer spend endless hours trying to decode every message, every pause, or every moment of silence. Slowly, confusion gives way to clarity. The anxiety that once followed every interaction begins fading into a quiet sense of peace. Fear may still appear from time to time, but consistency slowly becomes stronger than fear. That's one of the greatest gifts of a genuine soul connection. It doesn't pretend fear doesn't exist. It simply teaches you that love can become more powerful than it, and that consistency isn't boring or predictable. It isn't a routine that loses its meaning. It's something much deeper. Like roots growing stronger beneath the surface, it continues expanding as both people grow together. Life changes, circumstances change, feelings mature. Yet they continue choosing honest conversations instead of distance. They don't disappear after seeing your vulnerable side. They move closer, they adapt, they remain. You can always feel the difference between someone who stays because they feel obligated and someone who stays because their heart naturally belongs there. One feels heavy, the other feels effortless. That's a difference you'll never forget once you've experienced it. Inside a connection like this, care becomes something natural instead of something earned. They don't wait for a crisis before checking on you. They reach out because they genuinely want to know how you're doing. And little by little, emotional balance begins forming between both of you. Their willingness to make space encourages you to do the same. Their reliability inspires your own. It may never be perfectly equal every single day, but it becomes deeply mutual. Both people quietly protect something they know is valuable. You stop feeling like you're carrying the entire relationship alone. You stop wondering whether they'll suddenly leave without explanation. You stop hiding your real thoughts simply to avoid conflict. Somewhere inside, both of you understand that this connection deserves honesty, effort, and care. Then something even more remarkable begins happening. Their consistency starts healing parts of you that have carried old pain for years. Not because they erase your past, but because they offer something you may have rarely experienced before: emotional safety. You slowly realize that love doesn't have to feel unpredictable. Being chosen doesn't have to come with endless conditions. Real closeness doesn't require walking on eggshells every day. That discovery changes more than your relationship. It changes the way you see yourself.